Welcome to this tutorial on virtual environments in Python from Wise Owl. It's part 4 in the series, and it's so important, so please don't be tempted to miss this. So what we'll cover in this tutorial is, firstly, I'll show you why you should care about virtual environments and why you need them. Then what we'll do is we'll look at how to create them in Visual Studio Code, and then I'll show you how to activate them. And finally, I'll show you how to select a Python interpreter within your virtual environment. But I think that's enough of me. What I'm going to do is to hand you over to my very capable assistant Sven. He'll guide you through the rest of this tutorial. So let's get started. So I want to begin by considering why you need virtual environments, although a true statement would be not why you need them, but why you'll regret not using them. The best time to consider virtual environments is at the beginning of your Python career, so that you don't accumulate the mistakes you'd otherwise make. So what are virtual environments? What I'm going to do is consider an example. Let's suppose you've commissioned a fantastic contractor to write a timesheet system, and they've written it using Python, and they've used the Python 3.9.6 interpreter, and they've used something called OpenPyXL, which is a module allowing you to link easily to Excel files. You then have a look at what they've done and think, I can do that myself, and you write your own expenses system. You use the same modules of Python and OpenPyXL, but in addition to that, you also use the requests module, and that allows you to link to websites. Then your contractor decides that they want to upgrade the modules they're using and the Python interpreter, and they move on to Python 3.9.7 and OpenPyXL 3.0.8. At this point, as the author of the expenses system, you're faced with a nightmare. Do you exhaustively test your system to check that it works with a new upgraded version of the Python modules? Or do you tell your timesheet system authors that they can't do this and they have to downgrade their versions again? The answer to this nightmare is to create virtual environments. So the timesheet system would go in one virtual environment and the expenses system would go in another. So these are called virtual environments because they're separate spaces on your computer, in which case you can have distinct versions of both the Python interpreter and any modules used. If you're worried about the slight waste of spaces involved, don't be. Believe me, it's more than compensated for by the vast amounts of time you'll save not having to make sure that all your different systems are using consistent versions of modules. So that's what virtual environments are. Let's now have a look at how to create them. So to create a virtual environment, the first thing to do is make sure you have a folder open. So to do that, I can click on the top icon in the activity bar, and if I haven't already got a folder open, I can click on the Open Folder button. I've already created one called Work Python, and I've already got two systems within it, my expenses system and my timesheet system. So what I'll do is I'll use this as a basis for my new virtual environment. So in Visual Studio Code, I can click on Open Folder. I can paste in my folder path. And what I'm going to do is select that as the folder I'm going to use. And what Visual Studio Code will do is open that up. Now the next thing I need to do is create a virtual environment. And to do that, I need a terminal window open. If you remember, you can press Control and the apostrophe symbol. The keyboard shortcut is not showing the correct one. It's actually an apostrophe there. I can't get it to show the right symbol. So what I'm going to do now is to type in the venv command to create a virtual environment at the command prompt. I need to begin with the word Python to launch a Python interpreter. And then I need to type -m. If you're wondering what the -m is for, I would say probably don't. You can, if you like, go to Stack Overflow and you can type in 7610001 in the search box, which is a number of a question, which will tell you what the purpose of the -m switch is. But to be honest, you probably don't want to know. It's quite long and detailed. So I've typed in Python space -m. I then need to type venv to create my virtual environment, and then I can type the name of it, and I'm going to call mine tutorial. What I can then do is press the Enter or Return key, and what it will do is create my virtual environment. It takes about 10 to 15 seconds. You can see it's created a folder at the top left of the screen, and it's now finished. Now need to do though is to activate the virtual environment, and that's another kettle of fish altogether, to use a common English expression. Having created my virtual environment, what I now want to do is to activate it. You can see when I created it, I got the folder called tutorial, and within that I've got folders called include and lib, and also one called scripts, which contains a file called activate.ps1. And it's that PowerShell script which I want to run. Don't be misled by the red herring that's activate.bat. If I double click on it, unfortunately, it just takes me into the file for editing. So instead, what I need to do is use the terminal window to go to the correct folder and then run the file. You can type cd followed by a space and then the name of a folder to move down to a child folder. So if I type in cd space tutorial and then press return, it will take me down to that folder, and at any time, if you've gone too far, you can type cd ... and that will take you up a level. You can also press the up arrow key to go back to previous commands that you've run. So I'm going to go back and go to the tutorial folder, and from there I'll move down to the scripts folder, and I'm where I want to be. So all I need to do surely is to type in activate.ps1. It's not case sensitive, and I can press return, but it won't run the command because PowerShell has a security feature which prevents me running commands from the same folder. And I can get around this by typing // and then activate.ps1. And what this will do is take me up to the previous level folder and then down again to run activate.ps1. It seems a bit childish really, but it will circumvent the security feature. And finally, I'll get to activate my virtual environment. So if I press enter, and you can see I've finally succeeded because I've got the all-important word tutorial in green there. And what I would recommend as a tip when you're using Visual Studio Code and Python is always make sure you've got the name of your virtual environment appearing in green in the terminal window. And that makes sure that you're working within a virtual environment. And so changes to you making to modules in one system won't have any effect on any other system. So now I've activated my virtual environment, the final thing I need to do is to make sure I'm using the correct Python interpreter. So having activated your virtual environment, the last thing you need to do is to make sure that you're using the correct command interpreter within it. One way to do that is to click on this area of the screen at the bottom left corner, just highlight it there. That's the name of your interpreter you're currently using. So if you've got one visible, you can just click on that and it will allow you to change to a different one. Press escape to clear that. That's not always available. So alternatively, you can press Shift Control P to bring up the Visual Studio Command Interpreter or the command line. And you can type in part of the command that you want to run. So I want to select an interpreter. It was already visible anyway. I can click on Select Interpreter, and then I can either choose one of the items in the list or browse to find a new one. Now on this occasion I could just choose this item in the list because it's the one I want to use, but it's not always visible, so otherwise what I'd have to do is click on the plus next to where it says Enter Interpreter Path, click on the Find to browse to find my file, and choose the file python.exe. The difference between python.exe and pythonw.exe is another one of those questions you'll probably regret asking. So choose python.exe, choose Select Interpreter, and what that will do is change my current interpreter shown at the bottom left corner of the screen to show that I'm using the one stored within my virtual environment, and so I've got the correct version. And with all those changes made, you're ready to start working with modules, which will be the subject of the next tutorial in this series.